So, got it. Thank you. Okay. My name is Ray Pohl. Permit me to and I'm also the chairman of the HDC right at the moment. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So we have the following members, if you can just say yes or something when I say your name. Val Oliver.
Here.
Diane Coombs.
Here.
John McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Now, let me see whether Stephen has.
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Okay. So that was Stephen Welch for the record, folks. I think that's it. Oh, and then myself, Ray Pohl. Staff, when I call your names, please respond in the affirmative. Esmeralda Martinez.
Here.
Thank you. Holly Backus.
Present.
Very good. Terry Norton.
Present.
Fantastic. This is going so swimmingly right now. Okay, good afternoon. This open meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. No public comment at this meeting. For this meeting, the Historic District Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website. Please note the meeting is being recorded, that all attendees are participating by video. So please be careful not to screen share your computer so that other people can't see what's happening behind the scenes. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. For clear and effective, let me just read this. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda after they conclude their remarks. The chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Also, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor and give your name before speaking. Members who wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. Each vote taken today will be done via roll call. And so we have a very concise agenda today. And I believe that it's intact. So can I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Diane. On that motion, Val.
Aye.
Thank you, John.
Aye.
Thank you, John. Stephen.
Aye.
Very good. And Diane on your motion.
And I.
Very
Sorry.
good. And I'm in favor too. So we have
Abby's here.
Abby is here. Okay.
Yeah. So am I.
What?
So am I, Carrie.
Oh, hi.
Okay. Okay, great. So you have way more than a quorum, Linda.
That's great.
So maybe we should just mix it up a little bit. Just so that the associate members that have joined us don't just sit there doing nothing, which is, I think, a little unfair. So, okay. And I did hear Abby, right?
Yes, sir.
Abby's with us. So we have a full board. All right. Okay.
Can I make a comment before we start?
Yeah.
In an attempt to streamline this process?
Yeah.
These houses, in my opinion, are perfectly acceptable. There's like 2 or 3 different styles. They're all a story and a half. And with the exception of some grill patterns on some doors, I think that we can move through these very swiftly.
Oh, okay. Well, that's.
And I would motion to approve them all because I reviewed them ahead of time, but I know some people didn't.
So
I concur, but I'm not on them.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Linda.
Can I just sort of give you an overview in that case? That's great.
So now listen, I'm just going to tell you that, the tenor of the board And I think that Stephen's spoken and Val has spoken, but I think that, more people will probably be of the same mind. What I'm suggesting, Linda, is
Yep.
that you don't need to go into too much detail on this.
Right.
I
got
think
it.
that you're going to give us a broad overview. We're going to
Yep.
review these things, and I think I agree. Well, I don't think that I agree. I do agree with Val that this could be quite a simple process. So let's try and keep it simple. Keep it quick. And Linda, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay, if we can go, I'll just give you the overview. We do have somebody from the ownership group here. The architects
Saw
are
that.
here. The
Yep.
project manager are here. If there's any questions about that stuff.
Okay,
Go
that's
to
fine.
the first one, because some of the stuff is carried through all 13 of them. Just to give
Okay.
you an overview, there are 35 lots. They have bought out the rest of Richmond.
Mhm.
If you can look right here, this circle is ours, around the right side and the south side of it, and some of the lots on beach grass are ours. So we've got 35 lots. There'll be two duplexes brought in separately. We didn't want to overwhelm you with 37 structures or however it worked out.
Very kind of you.
So if we go to the first map on the top,
Mhm.
here is the section we're dealing with today, the 13, which are the honeysuckles, the top part or the right part, and indigo, which is the one in the middle. So we're doing 4 on honeysuckle on that side, and the rest are on indigo, east and west.
Okay.
If you want to go down to the next one, you'll see the streetscapes. Cut them to the chase. Here's the streetscapes. I put the colors. We're varying the colors. We're varying the styles of the windows. We're varying the porches. We're varying certain things. We're trying to keep them pretty subdued in general.
Mhm.
For honeysuckle. If you want to go to a different one, that's fine, but since Val seems to think that these are okay, if you want to see the streetscapes from indigo, we can go to those.
Well,
but,
why don't you show us everything? My first impression of this is I wish we were getting this kind of stuff from Richmond, to be honest with you.
which is why everybody's very happy that we bought Richmond out.
Mhm.
So if you want to go to the 5th application in the group, and that will be the next streetscape. I'll show you those. We've got 2 different styles of small, 2 different styles of medium, and 2 different styles of large. None of these are the large. These are all the smalls and the mediums. Okay, here's the east side of indigo, and that's what these look like. And there are all the colors on the bottom. Pretty standard colors here, nothing wacky. And then if you want to go to the very last one, that will show you the west side of indigo. We've tried to keep everything fairly, Nantucket centric.
Mhm.
And this is the west side of indigo.
Yeah.
So unless anybody has any specific questions that they want anybody to answer, we're all here.
Make a motion to
I've
approve.
got one question.
Was that
Well-
Diane who said motion to
Yes.
approve? Love it.
Sorry, I just had, I think off of what Valerie said about the grill work in the 3rd story. I see some of them have 3/3s. If they could all be just 2/2s, I'm in favor too.
Where was
4 lights, just make them all 4 lights up there.
Yeah, 4
Okay.
lights up in
Yeah,
the
I thought we
gable
caught
there.
all of them. I changed a lot of them, but I thought we'd already caught them. I'll make them all 4 lights.
Yeah, see that one on 74, Linda?
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
there was one
Oh,
before.
that actually looked like a drafting error to me, but if it's not a drafting error, if it was intended to be 6 lights, then no, I think Abby's absolutely correct.
Yeah. I'll change them all through staff.
And
Okay.
then my comments were simply with regard to the rear doors on 11 honeysuckle,
Okay.
5 indigo, 6 indigo, and 7 honeysuckle. There's doors that just have one grill down the middle.
Yes, I'll fix
I
that.
think it should have one going across as well, so that it ties in with the 2/2 windows.
Yep. I'll make them 6 light, Val, because that's what they should be, is 6 lights. That'll
I
mimic
would
the,
agree with
pattern.
that, yes.
And really and truly, that was my only comment. Now, I don't know if everyone had a chance to review them, so.
Okay, so thank you, Val. And Diane, it sounded like you had made a motion, but is there, before we go down that path. Abby, John, anything to say on these? And actually, I would, seeing as we've got Carrie and Stephen on board, I would sort of accept some of their input at an advisory level, simply because they're here. If they have any, thing that, we should call our attention to. Anyone?
I just
I
think
have
in
nothing
the-
to add.
Hold
Yeah.
on, hold on.
I have nothing to add. I think these are great little buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Carrie. That's nice to hear. Okay, Abby, you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that just in the interest of time, because we already have a quorum, it sounds like that would put these through. I agree about getting the associates involved, but this one is sort of generic, and I think we could probably just almost pass it right now, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it again. The process with Richmond was long, laborious, and, I don't think that anybody walked away from the table like terribly happy about the things that were being approved out there. But I look at these buildings and I'm like, boy, if they were all like this would be a delightful little, not little, quite large, subdivision. But, this is, I really appreciate the scale of these buildings. I think it's
Right, and-
fantastic.
And they're the ones closest to Old South Road, so. or-
Right.
Or.
So
one- or one
these are
street
going to
back.
actually block the view of the ones in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the saving grace back there. And just so you know, we spent a lot of time drilling down on these, making different color combinations, so they didn't all look like Richmond. Because
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but all those buildings behind us all have black roofs. So when you're standing up on Evergreen looking down on that group to the rear of us, it's a sea of black roof.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to have that. We wanted everybody to have their own individual, and these are all going to be sold, and there are several affordable units in here and a couple of moderate units. So it's a mixed use in here.
Okay.
It's
So
a good, I did review this before we got here today, and I agree with what has been up, so perhaps we can do that whole area.
it sounds like it.
Mr.
so-
Chair,
Yes, sir, Stephen.
just one quick comment.
Yes.
And I think, I agree with everything that's been, I think these are very well designed, very sensitive to the area and the island and all the good things that we would like to expect. And that would make our jobs much easier if people followed the guidebook. But the one thing I would say, and I think, Linda well knows, and I'm sure it'll happen, but as much as we think of that area as a flat land, there are some topography changes. And I would expect, and I think Linda will support that, if there's anything dramatic in terms of grade changes, and of course AC would all come back with the hardscape plans.
We are coming back with a planting plan, tree plan, hardscape plan, fences plan, a little bit a la, Naw Shop, not as formal, but we're coming back with a whole landscape plan for the driveways, the walkways, all that stuff. And that's going to be very Nantucket as well. And trees in
Marvy.
front of all of these guys. And
Thank
if
you,
there's
Mr.
grade
Chair.
changes, we know we have to fill to get it flat again.
Well, should we put some sort of a proviso in if we're approving all these en masse? Some proviso that says, the approval is for the architecture alone, and
Yep.
grading and retainage needs to be applied for separately.
We're working
And
on that.
applied for and approved, of course.
Mhm.
So I think that would be a safe way to do it.
And the
So-
only person who hasn't spoken is John.
He's here. I think. Is he? John, are you there?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, good. You have any comments? Because Diane is about to make a motion to approve all of these.
He just fell off.
He's
Really?
had terrible trouble with that computer.
It's one of those deck computers.
Yeah, and they
All
can't
right,
fix the
so let's
camera.
move it.
Okay,
Move
let's move it. Okay, so Diane, you wanna,
Okay.
Make a motion to approve
I,
the architecture as submitted with the landscaping and other applications made later.
And with
Okay.
the
Fair enough.
four
just-
lights in the gables and the fix
Yes,
those
4
French
lights in the
doors.
gables and the back doors being 6 panel.
Yeah, where
Very
they have
good.
to be. Yep, got it.
six
Six
light,
light.
six
Yep.
light.
6 light,
Okay.
wherever they need to be.
And that was
right.
on 7, 11, honeysuckle, and 5 and 6 indigo, as Val said. That's
The
correct.
comment would be to whoever.
5, 6, yeah. yeah.
Whichever houses it applies. Now, I want to be clear for the record for Terry. Diane's motion is to approve all of the new business of 315 that we're reviewing today, which would be items 1 through 13. Okay, that's what the motion is on. Okay, so there's our motion. That's Diane's motion. On the motion, Val.
Aye.
Thank you. Abby.
Aye.
Very good. John, are you with us?
would you repeat the motion, please?
The motion is to approve all these delightful little cottages that they have presented to us, 1 through 13, off of Old South Road.
Is this just to prove the colors,
No,
Approve the houses.
the houses?
Yeah.
Fine. I'm with you. Yes.
Okay, so you're in? That was an aye?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's see, Diane on your motion, right?
Yep, aye.
Aye, and Ray Pohl, aye. So there it is.
Thank you very much. We'll be
Yeah.
back for the other 22. I'm not going
Well,
to drop
give us,
them all in at
give
one
us a
time.
little breathing space. Let us breathe.
It's going to take me a bit to get them in. I'll bring the two duplexes in on their own.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
thanks for,
Appreciate
I'd like to see more houses come to the HCC that look like that, honestly.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so now we have a few things. Esmeralda.
Yes, sir.
I have some questions for you.
Sure.
So we have the minutes of March 8th and 10th, but we already approved the, oh, no,
Correct. You already approved them.
we did already approve them. Okay.
Yes.
And then.
Yeah,
we
you did that
also-
Tuesday.
Right, and we also did the motion to amend Tuesday.
Yes, you did.
So that's done. And then, now interestingly, this says next HCC meeting, Tuesday, March 29th via Zoom, but I believe that we're actually going live next Tuesday.
We are, per Erica's last email, it looks like if NCTV can get their act together, next week's Tuesday's meeting will be hybrid. So we will be over at the police station.
Right, okay.
Are we still
Just-
able,
just so
Mr.
everyone's
Chairman, to
clear,
meet?
on this agenda, it says via Zoom, but it's
Okay.
going to be hybrid, so if you can make it live.
Correct.
Okay.
Tomorrow, when the new agenda gets posted for Tuesday, it will note the new changes.
Are we
Thank you,
still
Val.
able to come by Zoom, Mr. Chairman? Because I'm going to be down at my
Yeah,
mother's.
no, it's a true hybrid meeting. I mean, I think that we all agree that there are advantages, certainly for the board members, of meeting in person, live.
Definitely.
And we recognize that certain people can't make it, including people that, have concerns that they want to voice on applications. So it will be a hybrid meeting.
All right, because I'll be in Memphis for those meetings.
All right, Memphis.
My mother's down there in hospice, so I have to go down there.
Yeah,
oh,
you should visit Graceland.
Oh,
Home of
I've
the
been there a
King.
million times. I grew up in Memphis.
No kidding.
Going over to see Elvis.
All right, tell him I said hi. Okay, so we can actually maybe cover some of the other business items. So we got this Tuesday thing down. It's been so long, I actually can't even remember some of this, like discussion and advisory board review. What's that?
What? This is the HTC.
Oh, you
I
guys need to
think-
mute.
Nope.
Yeah, there you go. Does
Is
anyone?
it with regard to how that process is? How their dates are not really working for our dates or something like that? Because, you know, we continuously get the comments after we've,
Yeah,
No, if I may interject, I think, well, that, all that other business stuff has been there for so long. I just keep copying it onto the new agendas.
right.
So, but the advisory boards, I got it down to a point where they get to review things way before you guys get it.
Oh,
oh,
Yes.
good.
that's,
Thanks,
that's
Ez.
good, because it used to be like, they met on Monday and we met on Tuesday.
And
No,
then
now they
everybody
get to,
tries.
now they get to review things up to a week or 2 weeks beforehand.
Oh,
Perfect.
that's fabulous. That's
So I
really
can
great.
take that off
Yeah.
the agenda then.
Okay. And then how about section 106 Sunrise Wind Farm Project intro? Anything there?
Mr. Chair, I believe this was something that Stephen had asked to put on back when he was 106 rep for the HDC. You all have since
Yeah,
or voted in for Diane to be the rep.
right.
There really isn't much right now. I can say for the benefit of the commission that, you know, the town does have our expert counsel specifically in this field.
Yeah.
And myself and another staff member in the town actually has a monthly meeting with our expert counsel. And so if there's anything that I need to get that now Diane, who's the HDC rep, involved with, I will do so.
That would be great. Thank you. Just so that we can stay up to speed on what's going on, if there's any discussion that we need to be having.
So,
We do.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Stephen.
so my update on that before I stepped down from that role and Diane so graciously volunteered was simply that there's a new wind turbine on the horizon, pun
There's more
intended.
than one.
I'm speaking, Miss Oliver.
Mhm.
I'll be very brief. So again, there at the time, which was probably 7 months ago, so we're trees for the forest at the HDC. There was a new wind turbine group on the horizon, and they would be coming forth to the town with information, photo illustration, so on and so forth. The federal review process was beginning, and Holly has been on top of that. And I believe Diane is getting information now. So I just wanted to kind of square that circle, and that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Ray,
Yeah, who, oh.
that's me, Terry.
Yeah, Terry.
FYI,
Yes,
in that regard, Park City Wind LLC, New England Wind Connector is scheduled to be heard by Concom for their wire or their cables or whatever tonight. Just
tonight,
FYI, tonight.
okay.
Yeah,
And
that's
Mr.
in the
Yes,
Muskega Channel.
yes,
Yes.
and I do want to also notate for the record that Park City is also AKA Vineyard Wind South. And as you all are, I would assume, aware, the town of Nantucket does have a good neighbor agreement with Vineyard Wind. I just realized that they renamed it, so just wanted to
Why
mention
do
that.
we have a, can we see any of these things? Why we have an agreement with any wind farm? I have not received any of that information. I would be curious as to why we have, or the necessity to have. If I'm going to be the representative, I think you guys should know what's going on.
Duly noted. I will mention it. That was something many years in the making, and I know Stephen could attest to that.
Right. I think basically it got down to them giving the town a sum of money, correct?
For their
35.
silence.
And with no backing up of that they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, and what happens if they don't do it.
Well,
Well, that's-
Diane,
Mr. Chair, may I just, I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead,
mean,
Steve.
Diane, that's not entirely accurate. And I would suggest, please, I believe you two should be informed, and Holly has offered to provide information. And I think, once you have it, you'll understand whether you agree with it or not. You'll understand the background. And I think once you're informed, and then maybe you could give us an update on the other wind farms and what's going on with those, that would be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right. Thanks. Okay. So, Holly, you'll just get information to Diane, just so she has, some background on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Discussion of additions and new dwellings added to the consent agenda. I believe what this had to do with was currently no new dwelling and no new addition is ever consented. Is that correct?
But that's only some of our board's opinion. I, as a person who actually,
I'm not sure. I actually don't disagree. I mean, I don't agree with that policy.
I don't
Anyway.
either.
So I guess the question would be, where did that policy come from? Is that one of these things that just sort of, and I know that maybe nobody who is on this Zoom session right now would be able to actually answer the question of where did that policy originate? Is it indeed a policy, or is it like one of these things that seems to be sort of like an HDC tradition that, just sort of like been in place and no one has ever questioned? Because I think, Val, I don't want to speak for you necessarily, but, they said, well, gosh, somebody's building a house like on 30 acres that's not visible from any public way. Yeah, it's a house, but it's a house that nobody's going to see. And therefore, if the people who are reviewing, basically have established that it's going to be impossible to see from a public way, well, why couldn't that be consented? Why does it?
and why can't little cottages that are perfectly appropriate to what's around them, the same
Correct.
thing?
Exactly.
Well,
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Stephen, and Diane, you'll be next. Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
Okay, so preparatory to the discussion, I tend to do a lot of the consents. I volunteer my time in the evenings and I log in, as we all may do, and review each of the drawings. We review the complete applications at the hearing. Some discussion came up about additions and dwellings being on the consent list, and as opposed to being, in situ during meetings, I had asked that we put it on as an agenda item. So that was the background. The concept for me is much like these dwellings that were just reviewed. I mean, I don't know how many were on our agenda
13
from today. I think it was
13.
13. Yeah. Those are typically the structures that go on. Sometimes I would put one on, for instance, Mark Catone's, which everyone thought was a breath of fresh air, was one that I felt could have been on consent, but I didn't put on. And, I go through it. I just want to be clear. And I think this is probably the philosophy of Val too. If something gets put on consent, it's not something that we individually feel is consentable. It's something we feel, knowing the proclivities of the commission, is consentable. So for instance, it has a 6-panel door. It has an 8-foot deck. It doesn't have overly mutton ganged windows. It does have balanced fenestration, to Abby's concern, kind of some of these specifics. And then of course, the ones that aren't visible or along those lines. Certainly nothing in the historic districts, the old historic districts, things like that. So, I just want to give a little background from the perspective of someone who puts these on consent. And then the last comment is, obviously, anything that is on consent, if someone wanted to invest the time prior to a meeting, can log in when the agenda comes out, and you can review these items. So
That's
it's not
right.
like we all have to be there to review them if they're very likely going to be approved. And in fact, I don't think I've ever had a house pulled and even modified. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, well, I appreciate all the comments. I think that for me, the most important comment was your parting comment, which is the consent agenda is basically a series of recommendations that have been made, okay? And it comes before us, and if any of the voting board members look at the consent agenda and they say, that doesn't quite resonate with me, I don't think that should be on consent. All the files are available, and they can say, I want to, the 3 Evergreen house that was placed on consent, I want to take a look at that because I actually think that it's bigger than the other houses in the neighborhood and, inappropriate, and therefore we can pull it from consent. So just the fact that it's going on consent doesn't mean it's a fait accompli, that it's all done, irreversible. We still, as a board, need to vote it all through. So for anybody who has any concerns, that is the safety. That any board member can say, I've reviewed the consent agenda and I really want to pull 3 Evergreen. And we do this from time to time. Abby will say, oh gosh, I saw such and such on the consent agenda. I live, 2 blocks away from that. I really want to take a look at that. And then we take it out and we look at it and we review it. So it's not something that is not part of what we were able to do. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
what about abutter notifications being a main reason for having full new structures not put on consent?
Interesting point.
But aren't abutters notices in the OHDs only?
No.
No.
No
The
way.
butter notification has to do with square footage.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yes, correct. Okay, thank you.
So that's an interesting point. Now, I guess to that point,
The
We
member
don't
of the
tend
public,
to put any structures in the OHD on consent because
no,
but couldn't a member of the public speak up before the whole consent agenda is
Yes.
approved? So that's their moment to say,
correct.
not so sure, we won't,
Yeah, so now, yes, so like any agenda item, and I don't do this every single one because frankly, most of them don't have abutters concerns, but the ones that do, I obviously recognize the people who have raised their hand or have made their presence known, who have written, a letter of concern to the HDC saying, I'm concerned about the house that's going up next door to mine, et cetera. And so if something is consented, it still goes before the board. It's still publicly noticed. So if somebody had a concern, if they got the notification and somebody had a concern, they would either contact the staff or they would show up at the meeting. I would recognize them. They could send in a letter, which, Holly would disseminate and say, well, this is a letter of concern that came in on X consent item. I think it can be handled that way.
Can I make so
Yes,
can I
go
say
ahead, Diane,
something?
and I'd like to talk too.
Yeah, okay, so first Diane and then Abby. Okay, go ahead, Diane.
I think in regards to this and the notification of neighbors and all that stuff, I don't know, but I know that many times I have heard, the board has heard that they didn't get one until the day before. And therefore, they didn't know what to do. Not everybody knows how to come in on Zoom or whatever. And I think this policy came up when we voted to have consent done more than than to us as a board, where it went and was done by other members of the board. So I from what I've heard just recently is the neighbors, the people who want to speak up and stuff, don't, some of them are very good and know about it, but other ones aren't, but they are entitled to the same importance as the ones who do know about it. We
But
have to make sure.
Diane,
Wait, if you
Yeah.
allow me, Val, because so Diane, you're actually bringing up a couple of different issues, all of which I think we can agree are problems. One has been a long-standing issue of the abutter notification. And here's the way this works. An applicant, Val Oliver, goes down, and from the town clerk, she says, I'm going to have this building going up at 3 Evergreen Way, and I need the abutters, the list of the abutters. So she gets a printout from the town clerk, says, here's a list of the abutters, and it has their address. Now, it might be a local address, you know, it might be 4 Evergreen Circle, or it might be, you know, David
Florida.
Sullivan Esquire in Manhattan, New York, because the property next door is owned in a trust. And so the abutter notification has to, by law, go to that place in New York where it's going to sit on an attorney's desk, and the attorney is going to look at it and go like, I don't know what the hell this is, and never tell the owner. And then the owner is going to say, oh my God, what happened? I wasn't noticed. Well, if your house is registered, like if it's in a trust and it's with a lawyer, or if the notification, let's just say that the meeting is taking place in the summertime, you know, and the notification goes to the home address in Greenwich, Connecticut, and they didn't get it. Well, why not? Because we're here, you know, we're on Nantucket for the summer. And so we didn't know about it because it went to our home address. So the town simply can't keep track of where those various owners are, or where those various owners' lawyers who are handling the trust account are. So we can only do it one way. You know, and the way that we have in place is the way it is. And a lot of times it doesn't work for the reasons I just mentioned. And so that's number one. And then item number 2 is Zoom is a relatively new phenomenon. And honestly, I don't think that everybody is out there Zooming all the time and actually know how to do it. So, you know, we've had cases where so-and-so is like, oh, I was trying to get on, I couldn't get on. And then, you know, the application came and went and I didn't get to say anything. It's like, well, we can only do what we can do. I mean, we can't like have a crash course in Zoom for anybody that cares to, you know, be in on our sessions. So I guess what I'm saying is, Diane, the system is flawed. There's no question about that. And sometimes people don't get the notification for any number of different reasons, but we can't, like, we as a board can't be responsible for that because we're doing things the way that we have to do them by law. And then the other thing, now we are just to sort of tie a bow on this, at least from my perspective, is we are talking about the idea of being able to put houses and additions on the consent agenda. Now, take the example of the owner who wasn't notified. If the owner wasn't notified, even if it was on the regular agenda, he still wouldn't have been notified. He wouldn't have gotten notification. So whether it's on consent or whether it's on the regular agenda, it's either they know it's there or they're not going to know it's there. You know, so if they do know it's there, they'll know that it's on the consent agenda rather than on the regular agenda. So those are my thoughts on that. Now, hopefully that answered your question. And I think Abby had something that she wanted to say, but if anybody else, including Diane, has any more questions or anything, I'll definitely take them. Abby.
Okay, thanks. So I appreciate Val and Steve doing all that work. I really do. I would
And
like.
Carrie.
And Carrie, I would like to be a part of that as well.
Oh,
I don't know when you all meet, but I'd like to go over there and look at them too.
that would be
but,
great. Thank you, Abby.
Sometimes I don't know what goes on in my life, but I don't always have time to look through all of the views that we get. And I do look as I can fit it in and remember and all that. And I do feel that when I do ask to see a pool or something that I'm not, haven't seen, I sometimes worry that pools and new dwellings, I just, for the benefit of the doubt, for the abutters, for everything, I don't mind spending that extra time to look at they're not, I mean, how many new dwellings do we, well, recently a lot.
A
But
lot.
it's right, but it's not always going to be like this. And I don't want to make a precedence of doing that. But also when you're pulling something out, it stops the meeting. You know, you hear kind of maybe unheard groans, but I hear them in my head that, you know, I've stopped the consent from moving on, and I'm holding things up. You know, because I'm worried about something and I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm a little bit leery of giving additions. I don't have a problem with, but new dwellings, you know, like you've mentioned, I mean, lot line to lot line, I have a problem with that. So sometimes it's not just the, you know, there are these other things we deal with besides the architecture. So, you know, I just feel more comfortable, you know, when I see a whole new dwelling going on consent. It just makes me a little nervous, but, and that, you know, all that has been said, I haven't been, I'm not completely comfortable with that. Yes.
Okay.
Could I say something else when Abby's
Yeah.
done?
Yes,
Done.
Diane, and then I'll recognize Val. Go ahead, Diane.
One of the things that do concern me, and listening to Abby, I think it's very true, is this is a board of 5 people, and everybody has their own opinion of how something should look and what is important to them and what isn't important to them. And the people that put their applications in count on the fact that they will be heard by a board. And when their stuff is put in, is accepted, it's only accepted by either 1 or 2 people, because that's all that can be there at the time. Otherwise, it's classified as a meeting. And I think that that's something that we have to be cognizant of, is that it's a board. It's not a board handled by the office. It's a board that sits and we are heard. And it may be incidental to some, and it may be important to the one that's putting it up there. And I think the new buildings, we really should, unless it's sheds or something, we should have the politeness to hear somebody's application. That's all.
May I?
Okay. Yeah, okay, so Val's next, and Stephen, I see that your hand is raised, so you're after Val. Okay, so go ahead, Val.
So we don't go into the office to review the applications any longer. That hasn't happened since COVID. We are given links, and I believe all of us get the same links. And I take the time, just because that's who I am, to look through them and make comments so that I'm ready at the meeting. So it's not as if there's a subcommittee that's going in there and working, together to put these things on consensus. I believe anybody can make a comment if they review these things and think they should be on consent. And I think it just comes down to reviewing things ahead of time. And I just want to point out that today, it seems as though everyone looked at these applications ahead of time, which is why it was so swiftly and efficiently moved along.
Agreed. Thank you, Val. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I got a couple comments. I think that they're valid, and I'd ask all the members to consider them. First of all, when the agenda goes out with the links to these application materials, there is an invitation that Ezzy includes asking commissioners to please take a look at these and see if they believe any of them should or should not be on consent. So that's number one. Number two, to me, I look at all of them. I don't go through and try and find one for consent. I try to find where I think I have a concern so that when the chair calls on me, I can be succinct. I can not repeat what others say. I'm ready to go. And I think that that's not only polite to the other commissioners, but that's polite to the general population who sit in front of us, the people whose hopes and dreams are in these drawings and they want to have their home built or their addition put on or the shed built. So I think it's helpful for everyone to preview these. I think if you feel that something is consentable, that you put it forward. I do recognize the concern that a couple members are voicing about houses being viewed and going on consent. However, I disagree wholeheartedly with the kind of notion that seems to be articulated that when it goes on consent, we're not looking for lot line to lot line. We're not looking at things like pool grades.
Right.
When in fact, some of the most important motions we've developed over the last few years since I've been on the board is not visible at time of inspection or thereafter. That was one that I coined out of a consent. We may have said something not visible, but that's something that we use as a mainstay. The other is very recently we had a house that was too close to the lot lines. And I went back and forth through the proper procedure to have that adjusted before it went on consent. So the idea that these types of considerations such as grade, the other motion is one that recently developed when I noticed that pools were coming in and they didn't have the grades elevations marked, was that there would be no grade deviation from what's marked on the application or the existing. The fact of the matter is we miss those things at meetings when we're pressured, in a sense, to get through because we have a sense of wanting to do the people's work. And then we get caught up in discussion about things that aren't even part of our purview. We get sidetracked and we miss the important things, as we did with some certain retaining walls on Vestal Street and in other areas. So I don't think it's fair to kind of ascribe consent is where things are being missed. There is a fundamental structural issue to our organizational efficiency that is creating things to be missed. I think the last few things is, yes, we're all individuals subjectively reviewing guidelines, but I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that individuals come to this board, they need to know, like in the rules of football, how you play the game and how the goalposts stay where they go, where they were set at the beginning of the game. It's not a subjective review by what we individually like or don't like. It's the guidelines. And if I believe that, maybe structures shouldn't be, maybe dwellings shouldn't be on consent if that's what you all want. Obviously, I would respect the will of the majority of the commission. But if a home meets the guidelines, as for example, the homes that came in today, there is absolutely no reason that should not be approvable without people picking through it and putting their own little stamp of design at the table on it. I think that is wrong. And I think if that's what we're motioning for today, then I would disagree wholeheartedly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So,
What are you talking about?
hang on. I actually,
I think I stated my comments pretty well, Diane. I'm happy to go through them with you
I
offline if you'd like.
understood it.
Okay, that'd be good. I'd like that.
Okay, so, oh, shoot. no one else, I think I covered everyone. I had a point that I wanted to make. If John were on this conversation, what he might say, because he said this very, very many times during the course of various meetings, although we might have 8 total members on our board, 3 people is a quorum. And we have been in situations where we'll have 3 people sitting on an application and 1 person will be against. That means that 2 people is what it takes to approve something with the HDC legally, if that's what the quorum is. So, the fact that not the entire board is reviewing something, I think, okay, not the entire board is reviewing it, although the entire board could review it just offline. But, in a theoretical world, if only 3 people showed up for a meeting, we could approve tons of stuff with 2 people, the quorum or the majority of the quorum, which is 2 people out of 3. So I think I'm going to get in touch. Well, I am going to get in touch with Esme, who might need to get in touch with somebody else, because I don't know what the protocol is for establishing what the policy is, whether that's by vote of the commission, whether that's something, that I decide, whether something needs to be voted. I have no idea. So now that we've had, and by the way, the heading for this was discussion of, review policy. So we have just, I'm getting all this stuff wrong. So review policy was for the move demo. Discussion, it said nothing about voting there. So I want to talk to Esmeralda about what exactly the correct method of moving forward with the policy on this is. But I appreciate all of your comments. Thank you. Gives me a better understanding of what the tenor of the board is. Now, have we all had enough? It's a little bit before 2. I'm very happy to conclude the meeting. I think we covered a lot of ground. Does anybody have anything else?
No.
If
Yeah,
not,
I have something really, really quick, Ray.
yeah, go Terry. Yes.
I just got an updated Concom agenda, and Park City Wind, blah, blah, is being held for April 7th. FYI.
I'm not surprised, but thank you for the update. Okay, thanks, Terry. Should we move to adjourn, folks?
I made the motion.
Oh my goodness, John, you're here. Okay. I didn't hear that. You've been silent. You've been silent the whole time. Okay, so John has made a motion to adjourn, folks. Thank you all for showing up. On John's motion, Val.
Aye.
Thank you, Diane.
Aye.
Thank you, Abby.
Aye.
Very good. John, on your motion.
I'm.
All right, and I'm in favor too. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Bye,
And
everyone.
see you next week. Bye-bye.